7 years ago, two teenage girls walked barefoot down a dark Mississippi highway after hearing their own parents' plan to trade them away like property. No money, no food, no future, just two sisters and a world that never wanted them. The sun was just beginning to rise over the small rural town of Brooksville, Mississippi, casting long shadows across the wooden porches and rust-colored dirt roads. It was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, and where people feared anything that didn't fit neatly into their idea of normal. And for as long as they could remember, Ava Dawson and her twin sister Ariel had been treated as anything but normal. At 16, the girls towered above most women in town. Their arms were strong and sculpted like young athletes, their backs broad from years of physical work around the house, and their legs powerful enough to lift things most grown men struggled with. But instead of admiration, their strength earned them whispers, side eyes, and insults. Every time they walked through the grocery store, people stopped mid-stride. Mothers pulled their daughters closer. Some men muttered under their breath, "Those girls look like they were built in a lab." Others snickered, calling them freaks, monsters, or the Dawson boys, even though everything about Ava and Ariel, dreams, emotions, vulnerability, was unmistakably feminine. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Still, the worst judgment didn't come from strangers. It came from home, inside the cramped, aging Dawson house at the end of Maple Ridge Road. The sisters learned early that love had conditions. Their mother, who used to be the prettiest girl in high school, saw their muscular bodies as a personal embarrassment. "Girls should be soft," she would say while folding laundry. "Girls should look delicate, presentable. Not like—" She never finished the sentence, but the look on her face told the girls everything. Their father was harsher, a retired mechanic with calloused hands and a temper that snapped like dry twigs. He often stared at his daughters during dinner with a kind of disgust that made the air feel heavier. One night, after hearing rumors that Ava had defended a younger student from some bullies, he slammed his fork down so hard the plate cracked. "You're always causing trouble," he barked. "Girls like you, big, loud, stubborn. You bring shame to this family." Ariel tried to explain that she and Ava hadn't started anything, that they were only protecting someone who needed help. But the moment she spoke, their father shut her down. "No," he growled. "Everyone's laughing at us because of you. What kind of daughters did God give me?" The words stung more than any punch the girls had ever taken. That night, the sisters sat outside under the dim porch light, listening to the cicadas scream into the thick summer air. Ava kept tapping her foot, fighting back tears. Ariel kept swallowing hard, forcing herself not to cry. "Do you think Mom ever loved us?" Ariel finally whispered. Ava hesitated before answering. "I think Mom only loves what looks pretty." It was the kind of truth that hurts because it feels real. Days passed, then weeks. The tension inside the house grew tighter, like a rope being pulled from both ends. The girls avoided the kitchen when their parents were there. They stayed outside as long as they could. They walked the long back roads of Brooksville until their shoes thinned out. And late at night, when the world was quiet, they trained behind the house with makeshift equipment, lifting cinder blocks, flipping old tires, sprinting barefoot through the grass. Not because they wanted to be fighters, but because moving their bodies was the only time they felt free. Still, no amount of strength could protect them from what they heard next. One evening, just after sunset, Ava and Ariel sneaked behind the shed to train as usual. But before they began, they heard voices, familiar ones, coming from the open kitchen window. Their parents were talking in low, urgent tones. Their mother said, "I talked to someone today. A man in town has a son. Not all there in the head. He wants a wife. He said he wouldn't mind girls like ours." Their father replied, "And that's supposed to be a solution?" Their mother shot back, "It's better than having them here. People think they're cursed. They scare off neighbors. Nobody will ever marry them. We can't keep them forever." Silence. Then the father's voice, cold as winter metal. "Maybe it's time we let them go." Ariel's knees nearly gave out. Ava felt something inside her break. Not crack, not bend, but break. In that moment, the sisters understood something that would change their lives forever. If they stayed in Brooksville, they would disappear, not physically but emotionally, spiritually, piece by piece. So before dawn the next morning, with only a backpack, a bottle of water, and a half-eaten loaf of bread, the Dawson twins walked down the dirt road leading out of town. No one stopped them. No one called their names. No one even opened a door to see where they were going. To Brooksville, they had always been invisible. To each other, they were all they had left. And as the early morning heat settled on their shoulders, the two girls who had been rejected by everyone they knew stepped into a future that had no promises, but endless possibilities. The night Ava and Ariel learned the truth about their parents' plan didn't begin dramatically. It began the same way every bad night in the Dawson house began, with silence. The kind of silence that sits heavy in the air, like warm humidity right before a storm. Dinner was over. Their father had barely spoken. Their mother had complained about the electric bill and the neighbors. The twins washed the dishes quietly, careful not to clatter the plates. Noise always led to trouble. When they slipped outside after chores, the air was still thick with summer heat. Crickets screamed from the grass. The porch light flickered like it, too, was tired of living in this place. The sisters walked around the side of the house, heading toward the shed where they usually trained at night. Training was the only thing that made sense. Lifting, pushing, running, sweating. Nothing else in their world ever cooperated, but their bodies did. Their bodies were the one thing no one could take away. Ava tossed an old tire into position. Ariel tied a rope around a cinder block. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. Their movements were synchronized, habitual, nearly ritual. But halfway through a warm-up sprint, Ariel stopped. "Do you ever wonder," she panted, "what it would be like if we were normal?" Ava slowed to a walk. Normal how? Like everyone here. Small, pretty, quiet. The kind of girl's mom likes showing off. She lifted her hand to wipe sweat from her forehead. Maybe they'd actually want us. Ava didn't answer right away. She looked out over the dark field behind their house, the tall grass moving in the wind like a restless ocean. "Even if we were smaller," she finally said, "they'd find something else wrong with us." Before Ariel could respond, the girls froze. Voices drifted from the open kitchen window, sharp, hushed, and unmistakably angry. Their parents. The sisters crouched in the shadows without even needing to signal each other. Their mother's voice came first. "I talked to Mark Jenkins today. His son needs a wife. She doesn't have to be pretty. He said he'll take either of the girls." Ariel's hand flew to her mouth. Their father scoffed. "His son? The one who can't keep a job? The one who screams at the moon?" "Yes, him." A long pause. Then their mother added, "He'll pay." Ava felt her stomach twist. Her mother wasn't joking. She wasn't angry. She was negotiating. Their father lowered his voice, but anger sharpened every word. "So that's your plan? We just hand them off like cattle? What else are we supposed to do?" Her mother hissed. "Everyone's talking about them. People look at me like I did something wrong raising them. You know how many women said they're scared of our girls? Scared of our own daughters. That's not a reason." "It is," she snapped. "Nobody will ever marry them. They look unnatural. Men don't want women who look like bodybuilders." Ariel squeezed her eyes shut, and Ava could hear her sister's shaky breathing in the dark. "We need peace in this house," their mother continued. "And if sending them away gets us that peace, then I'll do it." Ava didn't feel her heart break. She felt it harden. Their mother spoke as if they weren't people at all but objects cluttering up the house. Their father muttered, "Fine, let him take them, if he pays enough." Ava felt the ground tilt under her feet. Beside her, Ariel's shoulders trembled. They stayed frozen until the kitchen light turned off and the house fell silent again. Then the sisters stood slowly. No tears, no collapse, no screaming, just a shared understanding, crisp and sharp as broken glass. Ariel whispered, "They really want to get rid of us." Ava nodded. They were never going to let us grow up here. They sat for a moment on the dry grass, letting the truth sink in. And then, without planning it, without discussing it, the decision formed in both their minds at the same time. "We're leaving," Ava said. "Tonight?" Ariel asked. "At dawn." There was no fear in their voices, just a strange, calm certainty. They tiptoed inside the house, careful not to wake their parents. In their shared bedroom, they packed in silence. A single backpack with a water bottle, half a loaf of bread, 2 t-shirts, a sweater, and the $23 Ariel had saved from doing chores for a neighbor. Ava added a roll of medical tape they used for injuries. Ariel added a photo of them at age 8, the last year they remembered being happy. When everything was ready, they lay down on their beds but didn't sleep. They stared at the cracked ceiling, listening to their parents' muffled conversation down the hall, and waited for the hours to pass. At 4:15 a.m., before the sun fully rose, the sisters stood. They didn't leave a note. They didn't look back at their room. They didn't take anything that might make their parents notice sooner. Barefoot to stay quiet, they stepped onto the wooden porch. The boards creaked softly beneath their weight. For one brief moment, Ava hesitated. Not because she doubted the decision, but because part of her wanted one last chance for the door to swing open, for someone to say, "Don't go," for a voice to call their names. No voice came. The town was still asleep when they reached the old country road. The sky was pale blue, the color of new beginnings and unfinished stories. The sisters walked side by side, their shadows stretching long behind them. "Where are we going?" Ariel whispered. Ava took a breath. "Anywhere that's not here." They kept walking, past the wooden fences, past the quiet houses, past the cornfields that swayed like they were waving goodbye. When they reached the highway just after sunrise, Ava finally allowed herself to look at her sister. "No one chased us," Ariel said softly. "They never would," Ava replied. And with that truth echoing between them, the girls who had never been wanted by their own family stepped into a world that didn't know them yet, but might finally give them a chance to exist. The first day on the road was harder than anything Ava and Ariel had ever imagined. They thought leaving home would feel like freedom, like letting go of chains. Instead, it felt like stepping into a world that didn't even know they existed. The Mississippi morning air was thick, and the girls walked miles before the sun even rose high enough to burn. Their feet ached, their stomachs growled, but neither complained. Silence had been their language for years, and now it served them well. By late afternoon, they reached the main highway. Cars roared by. Families heading to church, workers heading to shifts, people with places to go. The twins stood on the shoulder, watching dust swirl around their ankles. Ariel finally whispered, "We don't fit anywhere, do we?" Ava didn't answer. She was staring down the highway, her eyes fixed on something far away. Something she couldn't describe, but felt pulling her forward. They walked until their legs burned. When evening settled in, they reached the outskirts of Jackson, the state capital. The city lights flickered like tiny fireflies, but to the girls, those lights looked like possibility. They'd never been to a real city, never been around more than a few hundred people, never imagined they would be here on their own, with nothing but a backpack and each other. They found shelter behind a closed pawn shop, an alleyway that smelled of old metal, damp cardboard, and someone's forgotten cigarette. It wasn't safe, it wasn't warm, but it was better than listening to their parents' voices echo in their heads. Ariel hugged her knees to her chest. "Do you think they noticed we're gone yet?" Ava shook her head. "Probably not. It should have hurt to say it, but it didn't. The second day was worse. They had one small piece of bread left, a crusty, crushed corner the size of Ariel's palm. They broke it in half and ate slowly, as if making it last longer would make their fear smaller too. The hunger gnawed at them. Their mouths were dry. They hadn't showered, hadn't slept properly, hadn't had a real conversation with another human being. But they kept moving. By the third day, they were in Dallas, Texas, after hitching a ride in the back of a pickup truck with a man who barely looked at them. He assumed they were runaways. They didn't correct him. Dallas hit them like a tidal wave. Honking horns, towering buildings, crowds that moved fast and didn't apologize for bumping into you. The city felt alive, chaotic, dangerous. But strangely, the girls felt less alone in the noise than they ever did in their quiet hometown. They found themselves at a large bus station, one of those places that never truly sleeps. Homeless men slept on benches. A woman with wild eyes screamed at no one. A young mother rocked her baby while staring blankly out the window, exhaustion carved into her face. Ava and Ariel sat against a wall, clutching their backpack, trying to look small even though their bodies refused to shrink. Hours passed. People came and went. The girls tried to rest, but fear kept them awake. Then it happened. A frail elderly woman, blind and moving with a shaky cane, stepped onto the crosswalk near the station. She held a small handbag pressed tightly to her chest. Two teenage boys stood nearby, skinny, restless, their eyes darting like animals waiting for the right moment. Ariel nudged Ava. Those boys, they're watching her. Ava already saw it. One boy whispered something to the other. The second nodded. Then, like a flash, one grabbed the old woman's bag, while the other pushed her hard enough that she collapsed onto the asphalt. She cried out, "My bag! Please, my bag!" People saw. Nobody moved. Not the bus driver leaning against his vehicle. Not the couple scrolling on their phones. Not the security guard pretending not to notice. But Ava and Ariel moved. They didn't plan. They didn't think. Their bodies acted before their minds caught up. Ariel sprinted after the boy with the purse. He looked over his shoulder and laughed. Right before she grabbed the back of his hoodie and yanked him to the ground with a force that shocked even her. Ava chased the other boy. He threw a rock at her, but she dodged effortlessly, caught him by the wrist, twisted, and pinned him against the sidewalk. People around them gasped. Someone shouted, "Who are those girls?" Another yelled, "Record this." Phones shot up. Flashlights flickered. Ariel snatched the bag and rushed back to the elderly woman. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling with concern. The woman touched Ariel's arm. "Thank you. You're angels," she said, tears in her voice. Ava helped her stand, their strong hands unexpectedly gentle. But when the moment passed, and the crowd stared at them like they were superheroes or monsters, the sisters grew uncomfortable. They backed away, returned to their place against the wall, and sat down quietly, hoping the attention would fade. Didn't. Within hours, the video was everywhere. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Two runaway girls stop thieves in Dallas. Who are these real-life superheroes? A city that didn't know their names suddenly couldn't stop talking about them. But the biggest turning point came the next morning, when a black SUV rolled into the bus station parking lot. A woman in her late 40s, athletically built and wearing a black tracksuit, stepped out. She had the energy of someone who walked into every room knowing exactly who she was. She scanned the station. Her eyes stopped on Ava and Ariel. And for the first time in days, the sisters felt something strange. Not fear, not shame, not rejection. Something closer to recognition. The woman walked over, stopped right in front of them, and said, "Which one of you is Ava?" The sisters exchanged a wary glance. "Who are you?" Ariel asked. The woman smiled. "My name's Coach Bianca Ross," she said. "I saw your video, and I think I know exactly what you two are capable of." The world around them seemed to fade. For the first time since they left home, the future didn't feel like a dark tunnel. It felt like a door, and it was opening. Coach Bianca Ross didn't look like anyone Ava and Ariel had ever met. She wasn't big, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who could silence a room with a glance. Her hair was tied back in a tight ponytail, and a faint scar ran along her jawline, evidence of a life lived inside the ring. The sun was barely up, yet there she stood in front of the two exhausted girls who had slept on concrete, eaten almost nothing, and had nowhere left to go. Bianca studied them carefully, her sunglasses pushed up onto her head. "You fight?" she asked bluntly. Ava stiffened. "No, we just helped someone." Bianca smirked. "That wasn't helping. That was skill. Footwork. Balance. Control. She crossed her arms. Most people panic. You two didn't. Ariel's eyes narrowed with caution. Why do you care? Because, Bianca said, leaning slightly closer. Girls who fight like that are rare, and girls who fight with purpose, even rarer. The twins exchanged a quick glance. Half uncertainty, half instinct telling them this woman saw something in them no one else ever had. Bianca gestured toward the SUV. Get in. I want to show you something. Ava immediately shook her head. We're not going anywhere with a stranger. Good. Bianca nodded. Smart. But here's the thing, you're not safe out here. Dallas isn't kind to girls alone. Especially girls who just went viral for beating up two thieves. Ariel swallowed. It hadn't occurred to them that being recognized could be dangerous. Bianca continued, You have 3 options. 1. Stay here and hope nothing worse happens. 2. Go to the police, who will send you right back to wherever you ran from. 3. Come with me, and I'll give you food, a bed, and a chance at something bigger than surviving day to day. The girls didn't answer. Bianca stepped back and raised her hands in surrender. No pressure, but I'm leaving in 1 minute. If you stay, you stay. If you come, you come. Just know, I don't offer opportunities twice. The older woman walked back toward her SUV and opened the back door, leaving it wide open. Ava and Ariel stared at each other. Ava whispered, We don't know her. Ariel whispered back, But she might be the only person who's ever offered to help us. 30 seconds left. 20. 10. Ariel stood first. I'm going. Ava hesitated, fear tugging at her gut. But when Ariel took a step toward the SUV, she followed. She always followed. They climbed into the back seat. Bianca didn't smile, but something in her face softened as she shut the door. Good choice. The drive through Dallas was quiet at first. The city buzzed around them. Traffic, shouting, street vendors, sunrise bouncing off glass buildings. But inside the SUV, the air was calm, safe, something Ava hadn't felt since she was a kid. Finally, Bianca broke the silence. You two remind me of myself at your age. Ava raised a brow. Really? Yeah, Bianca replied, eyes still on the road. People told me I was too strong, too aggressive, too loud. At 15, I knocked out a boy who kept shoving my little sister around. Ariel blinked. What happened next? They expelled me. Bianca smirked. Said I wasn't ladylike. My mother cried every day. My father didn't talk to me for a year. Ariel's voice softened. So what did you do? I learned how to turn my anger into discipline, pain into power. She glanced at them through the rearview mirror. And I think you two can do the same. Ava swallowed hard. What makes you think we want to fight? Bianca laughed. Oh, honey, I've been in this business 20 years. You don't chase down grown thieves unless something inside you wants to fight. Ava looked away, staring out the window. The truth stung because it felt too real. Ariel, however, leaned forward. Where are we going? To my gym, Bianca replied. The building they pulled up to wasn't flashy. It was an old brick warehouse with a faded sign that read, Ross Training Center, Home of Champions. Inside, the sounds hit immediately. Punching bags thudding, gloves cracking, sneakers sliding on mats, trainers shouting instructions. Sweat, chalk, and determination filled the air. Ava and Ariel froze at the doorway. Dozens of women trained inside, women of all shapes, sizes, ages. Some were tiny but fierce, some muscular and imposing, some moving with grace, others with raw power. It was the first time the twins had ever seen strong women celebrated rather than ridiculed. A muscular woman with braids waved. Coach, these the girls from the video? Bianca nodded. Bring them towels and water. The woman tossed each girl a towel and grinned. Welcome to the jungle. Ariel wiped her face, overwhelmed. Ava looked around in awe. Bianca stepped in front of them. This place isn't fancy, but it's where fighters are made. Not the kind on TV, real ones. People with stories, scars, reasons. Ava's voice trembled slightly. And what do you want from us? Nothing, Bianca said. Not yet. First, I want to know if you're willing to work. She gestured toward the ring. This gym doesn't care who your parents are. It doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care if the world rejected you. Her voice lowered. It only cares about who you're willing to become. Ariel lifted her chin. We're willing. Ava nodded slowly. We don't know how. Bianca smiled for the first time. That's my job. She motioned toward a small hallway. You'll stay here for now. There's a spare room upstairs. Nothing fancy, but it's safe and it's yours. The twins followed her past rows of punching bags and weight racks. For the first time since leaving Mississippi, the floor beneath their feet didn't feel like it was crumbling. Just before entering the staircase, Bianca stopped. One more thing, she said. I don't train quitters. If you stay, really stay, you train hard, you listen, and you learn. No whining. No giving up. No looking back. Ava and Ariel exchanged a look. One filled with exhaustion, hope, and a kind of fire that had been buried beneath years of hurt. We won't quit, Ariel said. Ava added, we don't have anything to go back to. Bianca nodded, satisfied. Good, she said, because what's coming next is going to hurt. A lot. She opened the door to their new room. But it'll hurt in all the right ways. And for the first time, the sisters stepped into a place that didn't ask them to be smaller. It asked them to rise. The first morning at Ross Training Center arrived long before sunrise. Ava and Ariel were used to waking at dawn for chores back home. But this was different. At exactly 4:30 a.m., a whistle blasted through the hallway like a siren. The twins jolted awake, still stiff from sleeping on mattresses that felt more like thin gym mats than beds. Up, shoes on, out in 30 seconds. Coach Bianca's voice thundered from downstairs. Ava groaned. Is she serious? Ariel didn't answer. She was already slipping on her sneakers. When they rushed into the main gym, they found 10 other fighters lining up. Women with braided hair, tattoos, scars, and intense eyes. Some were barely 18. Others were in their 30s. What they all shared was the unmistakable discipline of people who lived in the ring. Bianca didn't waste time. 5-mile run, she barked. No breaks. Stay with the group or get left behind. They barely had time to exchange a look before everyone took off at a sprint through the pre-dawn streets of Dallas. After the first mile, Ava's lungs burned. After the second, sweat poured down her face. The city felt different at this hour. Quiet, eerie, echoing with footfalls and sharp breathing. Traffic lights blinked red over empty intersections. The morning air smelled like asphalt and dew. Ariel stumbled once but pushed herself forward. We're not falling behind, she gasped. Never, Ava agreed through clenched teeth. By the time they finished the 5th mile, the sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky pink. Ava collapsed on the curb, chest heaving. Ariel dropped beside her, wiping sweat from her lips. But Bianca wasn't done. You're not here to survive, she said, pacing in front of them. You're here to transform. 5 minutes water break. Then inside. 5 minutes felt like 20 seconds. Back inside the gym, the girls were introduced to the basics, which didn't feel basic at all. A shadowboxing for 10 minutes. A jab, cross, hook drills. Footwork ladders. Burpees. Planks until their shoulders shook. Kicks against the heavy bag. And every time Bianca passed them, she corrected something. No, your stance is too wide. Don't hit with anger. Hit with purpose. Keep your guard up, Ava. Ariel, stop hesitating. By noon, Ava's knuckles were raw despite the wraps. Ariel's thighs trembled with every movement. Their shirts were soaked. Their legs felt like rubber. But when Bianca finally called time for lunch, something unexpected happened. They smiled. Because the pain, this kind of pain, was different from what they'd felt growing up. This wasn't humiliation. This wasn't rejection. This was growth. Weeks passed. The morning runs got faster. The punches sharper. Their balance steadier. Their bodies shifted, leaner, stronger, more controlled. Coach Bianca pushed them harder than she pushed anyone else, and they didn't complain. Not once. One afternoon, after a particularly brutal drill session, Bianca stood with her arms crossed, analyzing them. "You too," she said, "are almost ready." Ava frowned. "Ready for what?" "For the underground fight night next weekend." Ariel's eyes widened. "A real fight." "Real enough," Bianca said. "Smaller crowd, no bright lights, no TV cameras. Just you, another fighter, and a referee who only steps in if you're dying." It wasn't a joke. Ava swallowed. "Why us?" "Because you fight like people who've been fighting their whole lives," Bianca replied. "And because it's time you see what you're capable of outside this gym." Fight night arrived fast. The venue was a dimly lit hall behind an old bar in East Dallas. The walls smelled of stale beer. The air vibrated with energy. Spectators yelling, money exchanging hands, the sound of fists meeting flesh in the ring. Ava and Ariel stood backstage, wearing borrowed shorts and gloves, their stomachs twisted with adrenaline. Ava whispered, "What if we embarrass ourselves?" Ariel whispered back, "We've been embarrassing to people our whole lives. Who cares?" Bianca placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not here to impress anyone. You're here to learn. Win or lose, you walk in with purpose, and you walk out with pride." Their hearts steadied. Ariel fought first. Her opponent was a slender but fast girl with lightning reflexes. The bell rang, and the crowd erupted. Ariel's nerves almost threw her off rhythm, but she remembered Bianca's instructions. Don't chase. Control the space. She blocked a jab, dodged a kick, and sent a powerful cross straight to the girl's chest. The girl staggered. The crowd gasped. Ariel followed with a hook to the jaw. The girl fell. The bell rang. Ariel won. Ava nearly burst with pride, then panic, because now it was her turn. Ava stepped into the ring. Her opponent wasn't tall, but she was solid, clearly experienced, with hands wrapped in a way that said she'd spent years in this world. The bell rang. Ava froze for a fraction of a second, and that was all it took for the girl to land a sharp hit to her ribs. Pain shot up Ava's side. Bianca shouted from the corner, "Move, Eva!" Ava snapped out of her fear. She ducked a hook, stepped in, and threw a jab. It landed. She threw another, and another. The girl swung wide. Ava saw an opening. She stepped forward, pivoted, hooked hard. The girl dropped. For a moment, the room went silent. Then, cheers, whistles, shouting. Ava was stunned. Not because she won, but because for the first time in her life, people weren't laughing at her strength. They were celebrating it. Ariel jumped into the ring and hugged her, sweat and tears mixing. "We did it," she cried. Ava nodded, breathing shakily. "We did." Bianca approached, her arms crossed, but a proud, rare smile spread across her face. "Not bad," she said. It was the highest praise she ever gave. And as they walked out of the smoky little venue that night, bruised but glowing, Ava and Ariel realized something. They weren't freaks. They weren't mistakes. They weren't the burdens their parents claimed. They were fighters. And this was only the beginning. The wins at the underground fights changed everything. Not instantly, not like some magical movie moment, but slowly, steadily, like a door that had always been locked finally clicking open. For weeks afterward, more people came to Ross Training Center. Some wanted autographs. Others wanted to train, like the Dawson twins. A few even asked for selfies, though Ava and Ariel rarely agreed. They weren't used to being wanted. But the attention didn't distract them. If anything, it made them more focused. Their sparring got sharper, their conditioning stronger, their footwork faster. They lifted, ran, drilled, studied fights on Bianca's old TV. They learned combinations, strategies, how to listen to their bodies, how to breathe under pressure. And then the day came, the day that changed their lives far beyond anything they imagined. It was a Thursday afternoon when a man in an expensive white shirt and navy blue blazer walked into the gym. Everyone stopped. He didn't look like he belonged there. Too polished, too confident, too corporate. He carried a leather portfolio under his arm and had the kind of smile that made you think he always got what he wanted. Coach Bianca had just finished yelling at Ava for dropping her guard when she noticed him. "You lost?" she asked bluntly. The man laughed. "No, Coach Ross. I'm exactly where I want to be." Bianca frowned. "Who are you?" He opened the portfolio and handed her a business card. "Domini Sports Promotions. Director Marcus Domini." Bianca's eyebrows shot up. "You're that Domini?" "In the flesh," he said smoothly. "I've been watching the videos of these two." He gestured toward Ava and Ariel. "And I think we can make something extraordinary happen." Ariel froze. Ava felt her stomach twist. Bianca crossed her arms. "They're new, still learning. They're not ready for big stages." Domini smiled. "I'm not here for big stages. Yet." He turned to face the twins. "I'm here because in 20 years of scouting fighters, I've never seen anyone move the way you two do. Relentless. Born from instinct, not training." Ariel opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Ava's heart hammered. "How did you find us?" Ava finally asked. Domini shrugged. "When a clip hits 2 million views, people notice." 2 million. The twins stared at him, stunned. They had no idea the world had grown that loud around them. Domini stepped closer. "I'm organizing an international invitational match in Johannesburg. Fighters from Kenya, Brazil, South Africa, Thailand. The real deal. Real competition. Real exposure." Ariel swallowed. "And you want us there?" "Not want," Domini said. "Need. You bring something different. Something I haven't seen in a long time." Bianca held up her hand. "Absolutely not. They're not ready for an international fight." "Well," Domini said with a polite smile, "that's not up to you." Ariel stiffened. Ava frowned. Bianca stepped forward, eyes blazing. "If they go into a ring they're not ready for, they could get hurt. Or worse." Domini lowered his voice. "And if they stay here forever, they'll never know who they could have become." Silence. Then he looked directly at the twins. "You two decide. Not me. Not your coach. You." He slipped 2 envelopes onto the table, plane tickets, and walked out. The gym fell silent. Ariel stared at the envelopes. Ava stared at Bianca. Bianca let out a slow breath. "I'm not going to make this decision for you." Ava asked, "Do you think we're ready?" "No," Bianca answered bluntly. Then she added, "But fighters never feel ready. They just refuse to back down." Ariel exchanged a long look with Ava. There was no fear in their eyes now, just fire. "We'll do it," Ariel said. Ava nodded beside her. "Yeah, we're going." Bianca exhaled through her nose. Half frustration, half pride. "Then we train harder than we ever have." Training became brutal. 5-mile mornings turned into 8. Shadowboxing turned into full-contact sparring. Meditation sessions turned into breath control drills inside a sauna. Ice baths became a regular punishment. Bianca brought in a former Olympian boxer to teach them precision. A Muay Thai coach taught them knees and elbows. A jiu-jitsu competitor taught them grapples and takedowns. There were nights where Ava couldn't lift her arms. Nights where Ariel cried quietly into her pillow from exhaustion. Nights where both wanted to quit. But neither said it. Not once. Finally, the day of the flight arrived. Johannesburg greeted them with crisp winter air and the distant lights of a massive city. Domini's team picked them up in a van plastered with sports logos. Cameras flashed. Reporters yelled questions. Everything was overwhelming. Ariel whispered, "Are we supposed to be here?" Ava whispered back, "We are now." The training facility Domini sent them to was unlike anything in America. State-of-the-art equipment. Professional fighters everywhere. Laser-focused coaches. Culture where strength wasn't mocked. It was honored. Their new coach for the fight, Coach Lydia, towered over even Bianca. A stern woman with scars on her arms and an expression carved from stone. "You too," Lydia said on the first day, "are talented, but talent means nothing if you break under pressure." And she pushed them harder than anyone ever had. But the girls rose. Every single time. The night of the match came quickly. The arena in Johannesburg was massive, over 5,000 people. Screens flashed with the names Ava Dawson and Ariel Dawson, USA, versus the Nyota sisters, Kenya. The Nyota sisters were legends, unbeaten for 6 years, fast as lightning, cold as ice. As Ava and Ariel wrapped their hands backstage, Ava whispered, "I'm scared." Ariel squeezed her hand. "Me too, but fear doesn't get a vote." When they stepped into the arena, the crowd erupted. Spotlights hit their faces. Camera flashes sparked like fireworks. Their heartbeats matched the thunder of the audience. The bell rang. The Nyota sisters attacked immediately. Sharp punches, precise kicks, deadly timing. Ava took a hit to the ribs. Ariel stumbled after a knee strike, but they pushed back. Ariel countered with a hook. Ava blocked a kick and landed a clean cross. They moved like mirrors, two bodies, one instinct. Round after round, the arena roared. In the final round, battered and exhausted, the Dawson twins found their opening. Ariel swept her opponent to the ground. Ava landed a spinning elbow that sent her stumbling. The referee counted. 1, 2, 3. The crowd exploded. The Dawson twins, girls once mocked, shamed, rejected, had just defeated champions on an international stage. A reporter shoved a mic toward Ava after the fight. "How do you feel?" Ava looked straight into the camera, sweat dripping down her cheek. "We were called monsters," she said. "But today, the world sees what monsters can become." Ariel added, "We're done hiding." The arena shook with applause. They hadn't just won a fight. They had arrived. Victory in Johannesburg didn't just echo through the arena that night. It echoed across continents. Within 24 hours, the Dawson twins were everywhere. Clips of their final round circulated online at lightning speed. TikTok edits reached millions. YouTube reaction channels dissected every move. Journalists wrote headlines like, "These American twins just shocked the MMA world." From runaways to champions, the rise of the Dawson sisters. Strength has a new face, and it's twin. Ava and Ariel had never been the subject of praise before. And suddenly, they weren't just being talked about, they were being celebrated. But fame doesn't hit like a gentle tide. Crashes like a wave. When they landed back in the US, the airport was crowded with cameras, microphones, banners, and fans chanting their names. Security guards guided them through a maze of flashing lights. Ariel flinched at every shout. Ava's jaw tightened. They weren't used to being looked at this way, not with mockery, but with awe. Coach Bianca met them at the exit. She didn't rush in for a hug. She didn't cry. She didn't even smile widely. Instead, she gave each of them a firm nod. "You did good," she said. For Bianca, that was basically a standing ovation. Within weeks, opportunity after opportunity flooded in. They were interviewed on major sports networks, featured on the cover of Women's Strength magazine, invited onto a late-night talk show where the host jokingly asked, "So, should I be scared of you too?" Ariel laughed for the cameras, but later whispered to Ava, "People used to ask that before. Back then it wasn't a joke." Sponsors lined up next. Nike, Everlast, Red Bull, a major protein supplement brand. Not because the twins were polished, they weren't. Not because they were traditional beauties, they didn't care to be. But because they had something more valuable. Authenticity, grit, a story. Ariel preferred photo shoots. She liked the controlled environment, the chance to pose with confidence she didn't always feel. Ava liked interviews. She liked talking about training, discipline, and the brutal honesty of the sport. But both hated when interviewers asked about their parents. "What do your parents think about your success? Have you reconnected with family? Do they support your rise?" Ariel answered carefully, "Some people lose family but gain purpose." Ava answered sharply, "Not everyone deserves to come along for the victory. Audiences loved them even more." Next came the sponsorship tour. Cities across the US, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, New York, Seattle. Ariel stood on stages in front of thousands of women, saying things like, "You don't need to shrink to make others comfortable. Your body is not an apology." Ava led workout demonstrations, teaching girls how to throw their first punch, how to stand with balance, how to breathe through pressure. Women approached them crying, saying, "You made me believe I'm allowed to be strong. My daughter finally sees someone who looks like her on TV. I stopped hiding my muscles because of you." For girls who once hid behind thrift store clothes and lowered their heads in grocery aisles, this was almost unbelievable. But fame, no matter how bright, always casts a shadow. The more they rose, the more critics emerged. Online comments grew harsher. "They look like men. They're too muscular. This isn't what women should look like." Ava nearly threw her phone across the room the first time she read one. Bianca took the phone, set it face down on the table, and said, "If you let strangers decide your worth, you're giving them power they never earned." Ariel learned to turn pain into poetry. Ava learned to turn rage into discipline. The world could talk, but the ring never lied. Their next match in Las Vegas solidified everything. A stadium of 20,000 fans. Neon lights, booming speakers, 100 reporters lining the tunnel. The announcer's voice thundered. "The Dawson Sisters, the Iron Sisters of America." The crowd erupted. Ava and Ariel stepped into the octagon with the grace of seasoned champions. But inside their bodies, adrenaline surged like electricity. Their opponents were fierce. The fight was brutal. 3 rounds of sweat, blood, and pure determination. But when it ended, when the referee lifted both their hands, the stadium roared in a way neither girl had heard before. A sound that said, "You belong here. You earned this. You are ours." As confetti fell, a reporter rushed in with a mic. "Ava, Ariel, you've become global icons. How does it feel to be role models now?" Ariel looked into the camera, her voice steady. "We're not here to be role models. We're here to be reminders." "Reminders of what?" the reporter asked. Ava answered, "That strength doesn't need permission." The arena went wild. After the match, sponsorships multiplied. A Netflix documentary contacted their agent. A major sports brand pitched a shoe line named Iron Sisters. They were invited to speak at universities, women's conferences, self-defense seminars. They visited shelters, spoke with girls who had been bullied, abandoned, underestimated. Ariel knelt beside one timid girl and held her hands gently. "People treated me like I was wrong," she said. "Turns out they were wrong." The girl hugged her, and Ariel felt something she hadn't felt in years: healing. Ava led workshops on resilience. She showed young women how to stand strong, how to protect themselves, how to push back against a world eager to minimize them. Every city they visited, every crowd they faced, another piece of their broken past found a place to mend. They weren't just fighters now. They were symbols for strength, for survival, for every girl who was ever told she was too much. They had become exactly what the world didn't know it needed, and everything they themselves never believed possible. Icons. But there was still one place they hadn't faced. One place where their story hadn't yet been rewritten. Home. And they both knew that day was coming. 7 years had passed since the Dawson twins walked barefoot down the dusty road out of Brooksville, Mississippi. 7 years since they left behind the house where love was conditional, affection was rationed, and strength was treated like a flaw. 7 years since they stopped being invisible. And now they were returning, not as frightened girls, but as the Iron Sisters of America, champions known around the world. The journey back began quietly. A private SUV drove them from the airport to the outskirts of Brooksville. As the trees thickened and the roads narrowed, the sisters grew silent. Fame didn't erase memory. Glory didn't erase wounds. Ariel looked out the window, watching the familiar, endless fields roll by. "It feels smaller," she murmured. Ava nodded. "We outgrew it a long time ago." The SUV turned onto the main street, if it could even be called that. A single row of small shops. The same gas station with peeling paint. The same diner with the same faded sign. People stood on the sidewalks, staring in disbelief. Some recognized them immediately. Others squinted, trying to connect the muscular women stepping out of the Cadillac Escalade with the two awkward girls they once mocked. Ava stepped out first, sunglasses on, posture commanding. Ariel followed, her braided hair swaying over her shoulders like a warrior queen returning from conquest. The town fell into a hush. A woman muttered, "My God! That's them." A man whispered, "Did you see that fight in Vegas? They destroyed those women." Someone else said, "Those poor girls. I heard their parents threw them out." Ava and Ariel kept walking. They weren't here for approval. They weren't here for applause. They were here for truth. Their parents' house looked the same. Same porch, same chipped paint, same slanted roof that always leaked when it rained. But the energy was different. Like the house itself knew Judgment Day had arrived. Their mother opened the door before they even knocked. Her breath caught. Her face paled. She clutched the doorframe as if the sight of her daughters physically knocked her off balance. "Ava, Ariel," she whispered. "You came back." Ariel's jaw tightened. "We're here." Their father appeared behind her, older, thinner, defeated. His voice trembled. "Girls, you look successful." Ava's eyes hardened. "We became what you said we never could." The mother stepped forward, tears forming. We didn't know. We didn't expect." Ariel cut her off. "Don't rewrite history. You didn't want us then." Their mother's chin quivered. "We were scared. You were different. People talked." Ava snapped. "We were your children." The words hung in the air like a blade. Silence. Then their father whispered, "We made mistakes. Big ones. But you came back. So maybe you can forgive us." Ariel's breath shook. Not from sadness, but from clarity. "We didn't come back for forgiveness," she said. "We came back for closure." Their father's face fell. Their mother's tears became sobs. But neither sister felt satisfaction. The past didn't feel conquered, just confronted. Ava stepped forward, her voice steady. "You lost the right to ask for anything from us the night you tried to trade us off like property." Their mother cried louder. Please don't say that." Ariel stepped beside Ava. "We don't have to say it. It happened." Then she turned her head toward the street, toward the crowd that had begun to gather. "Let's go," Ariel whispered. "We're done here." Ava nodded. The two walked away, leaving behind parents who couldn't and wouldn't follow. But the day wasn't over. The sisters walked to the center of town, where a community event was already gathering. Local booths, food stands, families wandering around. When Ava and Ariel stepped into the courtyard, the crowd parted like a wave. Someone set up a small stage. A microphone waited. Dominique, now their manager, approached with a nod. "You ready?" Ariel looked out at the crowd. Faces from childhood, people who once laughed at them, who whispered behind their backs, who called them monsters. Her voice was calm. "Let's give them what they came for." Ava and Ariel stepped onto the stage. The crowd grew silent. Ava began. "When we left this town, we were scared. We were hungry. We were alone. But we were strong, even if none of you could see it." A ripple went through the crowd. Ariel continued. "Many of you mocked us. Some of you pitted us. Most of you ignored us. But what none of you did was believe in us. A few people lowered their eyes in shame. But we didn't come here to attack you," Ava said. "And we didn't come here to forgive you either." A hush swept the courtyard. "We came here," Ariel said, "to change what this place stands for." A large screen lit up behind them, showing their highlight reels, knockouts, victories, training, interviews, photos of them with young girls they inspired. Gasps swept through the crowd. Ava lifted her chin. "We are buying up several properties in town, starting with our old home." Whispers erupted. Ariel continued. "We're building something this place never gave us. A sanctuary, a training center, a home for girls who feel unwanted, unseen, misunderstood, or too strong." The banner on the screen shifted to the new name, the Iron Daughters Training Center, a place where strong girls become stronger women. The crowd erupted not with mockery, but with awe. Ava stepped forward. Her voice was steady as steel. "We didn't come back for revenge. We came back for correction." Ariel added, "Respect is not given. It's earned. And today, Brooksville will start earning it." The applause that followed wasn't polite. It wasn't hesitant. It was thunderous. The girls who had once been rejected by Brooksville had just rewritten the culture of an entire town. Not with fists, but with purpose. Not with bitterness, but with power. And as Ava and Ariel looked out at the crowd, standing tall, unshaken, unafraid, they realized something profound. They hadn't come home. They had transformed it. The construction took nearly a year. 12 long months of planning, designing, meetings, zoning approvals, and endless decisions that neither Ava nor Ariel had ever imagined themselves making. Yet both sisters showed the same discipline they brought into every fight. They reviewed architectural layouts like they reviewed fight footage, methodically, meticulously, refusing to let anything slip through the cracks. And finally, it stood. A sprawling, modern compound rising from the dusty edge of Brooksville, Mississippi. Glass walls, steel beams, open training grounds, weight rooms, therapy offices, meditation gardens, dormitories, and a central ring beneath a skylight shaped like a rising sun. The sign in front read, "Iron Daughters Training Center, a home for strength." On opening day, crowds formed long before sunrise. Cars lined the narrow country roads. Local news stations set up cameras. Women from all over the country arrived. Some alone, some with daughters, some with lifelong insecurities tattooed on their spirits. Ava and Ariel stood together under the entrance archway. They wore simple black hoodies, the Iron Daughters emblem stitched over their hearts. They didn't need gowns or sparkles or theatrics. Their presence alone commanded the moment. A young girl, maybe 12, stepped forward timidly. Her arms were muscular, her shoulders broad. Her hair was shaved close on the sides, messy on top. She clenched her fists as if preparing for ridicule. "Is this really for girls like me?" she whispered. Ava knelt and looked her in the eyes. "It's especially for girls like you." The girl broke into tears, and Ava gently hugged her. The cameras captured it, but Ava didn't care. This moment wasn't for the world's consumption. It was for the girls' healing. One by one, more girls approached. Teens who'd been bullied. Women who'd been told to shrink. Mothers who'd hidden their muscles because the world made them feel unfeminine. They came seeking something they didn't have words for. Belonging, permission, strength. Inside, the grand opening ceremony began. The crowd filled the central atrium. The giant skylight bathed the training mats in warm light. Ariel stepped onto the stage first. Her voice carried with clarity and calm. "When Ava and I were little, this town taught us that strength was something to fear, something to mock, something to suppress. And for a long time, we believed it." She paused. The room held its breath. "But strength is not the enemy. Fear is. Ignorance is. Silence is." A quiet murmur of agreement moved through the crowd. Ava took the microphone next. She scanned the faces. Girls trembling with hope, parents holding back tears, local townspeople shifting uncomfortably as guilt crept up their spines. Years ago, we left Brooksville hungry, scared, and alone. Not because we wanted to, but because we weren't safe in the one place that should have protected us. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't break. It resonated pure and steady. But we're not here today to punish this town. We're here because the world needs places where strong girls can learn to be strong women. Applause thundered. Ariel returned to Ava's side. Every time someone called us monsters, they didn't understand that monsters are just misunderstood. People fear what they don't recognize. She looked up at the skylight. Today, we redefine what they see. The crowd erupted. Reporters scribbled notes. Cameras flashed. But the most powerful moment was yet to come. After the ceremony, the doors officially opened. Girls were guided through the training rooms, learning their first jab, their first stance, their first breath control technique. Psychologists on staff held introductory sessions on trauma recovery and confidence building. Nutritionists explained how food fueled strength instead of shame. Ava watched from the balcony above the central ring. Her throat tightened. This was what she needed at 12, 16, at every age. This was what she and Ariel had built out of ashes. Ariel walked up beside her, arms crossed loosely. "You're crying," she teased gently. Ava wiped her cheek. "No, I'm sweating from my eyes." Ariel snorted. "Sure." They stood for a moment in quiet pride as the sound of punching bags thudding echoed through the hall below. "So what now?" Ariel asked. Ava breathed in deeply. "Now we teach. We fight. We guide. We give these girls everything we never had." Ariel leaned against the railing. "Do you ever miss them? You know, Mom and Dad?" Ava didn't answer immediately. She looked out at the rows of girls running drills, laughing, learning, unlearning. Finally, she said, "I don't miss who they were, but I miss who they could have been." Ariel nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too." There was no bitterness in their voices. No vengeance. Just acceptance. Not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things simply need to be left behind. Late that afternoon, the mayor of Brooksville approached them nervously. "This center, it's going to change everything here," he said. Ava smiled politely. "That's the point." He cleared his throat. "You've given this town a chance to grow. Thank you." Ariel looked him straight in the eyes. "Don't thank us with words. Thank us with change." The mayor nodded. And for the first time in decades, Brooksville began to shift. Not because it was forced to, but because it was inspired to. As the sun set, Ava and Ariel walked outside, standing together in the warm orange glow. The training center behind them buzzed with life. Voices, laughter, effort, hope. Ariel nudged Ava gently. "Can you believe we made it?" Ava looked up at the sky, then at the building, then at her sister. "We didn't just make it," she said. "We made something that lasts." Ariel's smile stretched wide. "A legacy?" Ava nodded. "A legacy, built from pain, rebuilt with purpose." The wind blew softly, carrying the distant echoes of punching bags and determined voices. Girls who were once powerless were now learning to strike back. Not at others, but at the fear inside themselves. And the Dawson sisters? They stood not as victims of their past, but as authors of their future. They didn't rewrite their story. They built a new chapter, one that would outlive them, a chapter called Iron Daughters.